Okay, as promised, I do have updates in a couple cases that are on the go right now. One is in the Delphi case with Richard Allen, and the second is with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. They were both in court over the last couple of days, and we will get into that second. We will first get into, well, actually, we're going to do Chad and Lori first. So I'm going to ask, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're made aware when we go live and we do updates like these. And please share this out where you can. Now, let's jump into this one first. We are going to talk about Chad Daybell. He was in court yesterday, and Lori was in court the day before. So I'm first going to touch on Lori. Everything was sealed in that case. Reporters were not allowed in the room. Everything is being kept hush hush. But what we have found out from that is apparently she is not fit to stand trial yet again. She is going through some more mental health evaluations. And from what I see right now, her case hasn't been legally stayed, like to the, well, not legally, but to use the word stayed legally, it hasn't been stayed, but it has been put on hold. It's indefinite yet. We don't know when there's going to be a court case or a date for her again. And no more hearings, nothing that we know of yet. I will be keeping a close eye on her file to see what is happening there. But from everything that I have been able to find out, she is undergoing another evaluation. So nothing will be done in her case until this evaluation is done. Now, that kind of puts a wrench in the plans to have these cases go forward together. And in January, the January date that was set for trial for both Chad and Lori has now been vacated. So they will not be going forth with that trial date. There hasn't been a trial date set again in either case. We're going to get into that with Chad too, because there's a lot that's happened there. So as far as I know, like I said, there's some problems that are going to arise because Lori did not waive her right to a speedy trial. But being that it was only a couple of months down the road that this joinder could happen, they said, it's only a couple months. It gives her lawyers a little bit more time to get their stuff together, and it's not going to really infringe on her right to a speedy trial because it's only a couple months down the line from what the deadline would have been for her speedy trial, which was nearing the end of October. Now, with this happening here, and now Chad also asking to prolong his date for his trial, this is going to get complicated. Because Lori wants her trial. She wants a speedy trial. And to me, I feel she should have been granted that. And we would have been pretty much done with her trial. Okay? Because I do see these trials being separated. In my honest opinion, I do see that these trials are going to have to be separated. There's just no way that, with Lori's mental health issues, and she's brought back to competency. Now they're saying she's incompetent again. There's no way to actually get a date for this trial to start in either case with this continuing to happen. So I do feel that they should be separated. What the judge is going to do, we have no idea yet. But I'll touch more on that when we start talking about Chad. So I do feel that there's no other way but to sever these trials again and, do them individually. So that's where it stands with Lori. As soon as I find out anything that's going on, if she's been committed back to a state hospital, as far as I know, she is still at the jail. They are trying to treat her at the jail, but that may change after the hearing 2 days ago. So let's jump into Chad. Chad had a hearing yesterday. Again, it was close to the, it wasn't close to the public, but it could not be video recorded. But I do have information that's come out about that. He has filed a motion to sever that was filed back in September. And a lot of their main concerns regarding this is the information that came out in this Netflix series. A lot of attention has been drawn to the actions of Lori and Alex and their pending charges in Arizona with Lori in the death of Charles. The documentaries done by Netflix and I believe it was Lifetime. John Pryor says has portrayed this case in a light that he does not agree with. And because of those things that came out in the trial, there was interviews that were done with family and friends and others. And he feels that his client was portrayed in a light that is not accurate. He feels that their version of facts are going to differ greatly from what Lori's lawyers will be presenting at trial. There's quite a lot of evidence, he says, that will be related to Lori, but not to Chad. And those have to be dealt with separately as they do not apply to Chad. So he feels that this case that Lori has outstanding in the death of Charles is going to come into this case in the deaths of her children, of Lori's children. And he feels that there was a lot of things portrayed there that aren't factual, that aren't true, or that have nothing to do whatsoever with Chad. That, you know, when that happened, when Charles was shot and killed, that had nothing to do with him. He was not involved at that time, he's saying. But he says that there's going to be things that are going to be fought that only apply to Chad and not Lori, and vice versa, that he feels if they're joined, it's going to really confuse a jury, that things that Lori did separate from Chad are going to be held against him, or things, facts that they fight that could exonerate Chad, could possibly, the jury could confuse that to exonerating the both of them instead of just Chad. There's been, and also the judge brought up something about he was feeling that there was something in the works or something that was in the facts and stuff, that it seemed to him that Pryor was leaning towards that he has evidence of some kind of confession. They did clear that up, that there has been no confessions from either side. Lori's lawyers were present at Chad's hearing yesterday, but they did not say anything. I guess they were just there to observe what was being said, what was going on for their own case. But they did not say anything or add anything to the hearing yesterday. Lindsay, the prosecutor, Lindsay, was answering for the state. She got up and she said that basically the trials are two of the same. They're going to be using the same evidence, reiterating really what she has said in the past, that she doesn't see any reason for these trials to be severed. She said that it is up to the defense to show great cause why these trials should be separated. And she says that they haven't met that burden of proof. Now, also with that, Pryor did get up and say, okay, well, you know, if we can't have these trials severed, so he's saying that his client has the right to be able to present his defense and to use all avenues to be able to do that. He says he wouldn't be able to do that because he sees Lori's team fighting evidence coming in or fighting certain things that they have. They didn't want to give out their whole defense, but saying that, excuse me, basically, he would be withheld from being able to present a full defense for Chad if these remained joined. And so he says in that case, the only other way other than severing these two trials would to be have two juries, one for Chad, one for Lori. So one jury that is going to be making a decision based on Chad alone and one jury basing on Lori alone. And he said how that would work is if there was parts of the trial that did not concern Chad, that they were going to be fighting and this and that one jury would stay and the other one would be kind of sequestered away. So they didn't hear evidence that's being presented for the basically still having two separate trials within one trial and two juries. I just don't know how that would work, you guys. I mean, it seems to me every 15 minutes there would be one of the juries sequestered so they didn't hear stuff that was being presented for one defendant so the other one didn't hear it. I think it would, that's like totally out of the question to sequester one jury so they didn't hear information or evidence that included the other party, and it would just be a cluster F, if you know what I mean. So a lot of things being fought there. The prosecutor Lindsay is still fighting to keep these trials joined. Both cited cases where there was a separation in the joinder and reasons to sever, especially in capital crime cases like this. Pryor did say that it's not uncommon for these type of cases to be severed, especially when both are facing the death penalty. And again, he's saying that his version of facts are going to differ greatly from what Lori's side is going to be presenting. So he gave a lot of argument as to why they should be severed. I do believe at this point they should be severed and each have their own separate trials. But we're going to see what happens. The judge has taken everything under advisement and he will be making a decision at a later date. So I will be watching the files for that also. And we'll be letting you guys know when a decision has come through on that. But I do believe that I think this is getting, monotonous. These need to be severed. We never know when Lori's going to be okay to go to trial. So that if they set another trial date and then all of a sudden she's incompetent again, it's just going to cause such chaos that, it could be 10 years down the line by the time this gets to court. Let him have his trial. Let her have her trial when she's competent to do so. I kind of wish that they would have just let her have her trial back in October. And at least this part would be over and Chad probably would be going through in January. But we'll see what happens there when the judge makes his decision. Again, he's taken it under advisement. So next, what we're going to talk about is Richard Allen in the Delphi case. He has sent a letter to the judge. We're going to get into this letter, and then I'm going to get to what I have heard about how it came that he was arrested. Okay, so we got some information on that. And we're going to get into that. Let's go over this letter first. Richard Allen did send this letter from the jail to the Carroll Circuit Court. He says, in the case listed above, I, Richard Allen, hereby throw myself at the mercy of the court. I am begging to be provided, it should be provided, but he says provide with the legal assistance in the public and a public defender or whatever help is available. At my initial hearing on October 28, 2022, I asked to find representation for myself. However, at the time, I had no clue how expensive it would be to just talk to someone. So what happens is when you do call a lawyer's office right away, they want a retainer. Okay. So obviously he couldn't even afford to pay a retainer. I also did not realize what my wife and I's immediate financial situation was going to be. We have both been forced to immediately abandon employment, myself due to incarceration, and my wife for her personal safety. She has had to abandon our house for her own safety. What little reserve, and a lot of people are asking, what does that mean, a little reserve? He's talking about what they have in their bank account, what cash they have on hand. That's what he's talking about. So what little reserve there is will fail to even maintain the original residence. Again, I throw myself at the mercy of the court. Please provide me whatever assistance you may. Thank you for your time in this most urgent matter. He signs it, and here is the envelope. So, what I have come across now, again, you guys, sorry for the cough. We've got one heck of a cold. Let's go back to the beginning of this, when this first happened. He was initially a witness, classified as a witness. He was said to have been in the area, going on a little hike. Apparently, he gave, I guess, a statement to the police with what he did or did not see while he was in the area, just basically playing it like he was out there for an afternoon stroll type thing. So there was some evidence, I guess, that he gave as a witness as to what he seen while he was out there, etc., etc., etc. Now, there came a point that apparently, and this is what I'm getting from what's being said, is that there were people that knew him, and apparently a family member, some are saying his wife, did call him in as a possible suspect because he fit the description. Now, I do believe that it was kind of sort of looked into, but they had already spoken to him. He gave his account of why he was in the area, what he witnessed while he was in the area, stuff like that. So they just basically disregarded those tips. Now, we do know that he was charged with apparently either breaking into somebody's shed, stealing some tools, something along those lines. It was a felony crime, so DNA was taken, okay? Now, they still didn't put two and two together at that time. But now that they had his DNA, because of this break-in, even though it was in, they didn't put two and two together at the time and, hey, let's run this guy against, DNA that they may have had from the Abby and Libby case, it just didn't spark anybody's curiosity to do that, I guess, at the time. Now, what happened was another investigator came across either Richard Allen or something in their files. Okay, this was not another tip that came in that led to his arrest. So, with that being said, I'm going to assume that because it wasn't a tip from somebody else, the Keep Inclined thing really doesn't have a bearing. I've also been told when they were searching in the water under that bridge for a weapon, that was not in play either in regards to Richard Allen. That's what I'm being told. Now, this will all be verified or not once the probable cause affidavit comes out. But from a very, very good source, I am getting this information that says this was he was not arrested because of another tip or a tip that came in from somebody else recently. This was another investigator that started going through the files and looking over tips after this new information regarding Alan came to light. I am assuming it's this new charge that he was charged with in this theft. And it was something within those tips from years ago, or information from years ago, that is what led to his arrest. Okay, so could it be that when he seen that this Richard Allen came forward as a witness, gave a statement, and this investigator, while looking through these old tips to see if anything had been missed, also came across Richard Allen being arrested long after that, right? And seeing that there was DNA that was taken from him. Did he say, okay, well, this guy put himself there the day of Abby and Libby going missing. He put himself there. We now have DNA on him. Let's run that DNA against the DNA we have from the scene. Is that possibly what led to his arrest? I think that's a very high probability. Okay? So with that, that's what I think led to his arrest. They've made it clear that it wasn't a recent tip that came in, that it was an investigator that was going over information again, that came across something that he could put two and two together. And I believe that it is the most recent arrest that this guy had, this Richard Allen, where DNA was taken. I believe that they decided to run his DNA to either prove that he was there and not the way he said he was in his statement, or to say it's not him. They have a DNA of somebody who put themselves there. And I believe that is what led to them finally arresting him. So I don't know how much the Keating Klein thing has to do with this. Like I said, this will either be shot down, what I'm saying right now, or it will be verified when we get the probable cause. And I do believe that that will be released on the 30th when there is a hearing regarding it. Again, he's also been moved again to a different jail for his safety. So he was initially booked into the one jail. He was moved from there from his own safety, and now he's been moved again. So this is the third jail that he's been in since being charged. And also, as stated in his little letter here, his wife is reaching out for some kind of protection. She feels that she feels her life is in danger, and she fears for her safety. So she's had to quit her job. She's had to leave the home that they lived in. And she is also speaking out, saying that she is very much in fear of her own safety. So with that being said, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up. If anything else does come out, we will talk about it on Sunday before the live mini reads. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern is when I do the mini reads for you guys. So if you do, have you ever wanted a mini read? Have you ever wanted to know what's going on with you? You know, maybe behind the scenes, what do your spirit guides and spirit want you to know? That's your chance to get your very own mini read Sunday mornings, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We usually go to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you do want a mini read, stop in Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And we begin off the sessions like that on Sunday mornings that I can bring out new information that has come out regarding the cases that we follow also. I have been catching up, you guys, on the private reads. So if you have put in for a private read, know that I am catching up. I'm into the October, so end of September, beginning of October read. So if you do have a request in, please watch your emails for a notification that it's time for your read. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. If anything else does come out, I will address it on Sunday morning before our mini read session. Until the next time, you guys, please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Bye-bye for now.